I covered the pairing of a receiver with a transmitter in a previous video, but just so that this video is complete, I'm just going to quickly go over this again. Transmitter I've got is an AT10-2 made by RadioLink, and the matching R12DS receiver, which is 11 channel PWM or 12 channel if you're using S-Bus. Very simply, we just put power onto, it doesn't matter actually, any one of the connectors. Let me just do that. We're just putting on some power, and as hopefully you can see, we've got a red light on there. Turn the transmitter on. Sometimes it will bind automatically with it. If not, there's a little button on the side which we just have to hold in for a second. It's on this side, on the wrong side. The light starts flashing. Once it stops flashing, it's bound with the transmitter. I don't know if you can see that, but it's now showing signal strength of 5. Now that's bound to PWM because it's got a red light on it. A S-Bus bind is like a purpley blue colour, and the way we do that is we go back to the same button again once it's paired, and you just press it quickly twice, and then it changes to a bluey purple colour. That is now in S-Bus mode. That's it, simple as that. I'm just going to open Sound Teacher, which will come up on the screen in a second. There it is. Oh, that's interesting. There is a new firmware version available. And now it says at the top version 1.40b. Best to keep your firmware up to date all the time. Whenever you do a transfer or it connects to the SFR-1, it does a firmware check anyway. So if you've got one up and running already, that's running, shall we say, 1.40a, when you connect the cable to it, it will say prompt you to update the firmware. Now, because we're running S-Bus, it's important that we initially do a couple of things with the software so that we can communicate with the SFR-1, because in its default state it's in PWM control, i.e. it's expecting a throttle channel input to what is in fact prop 1 on the board, and because we've not got one, all we've got is one connection between the receiver and prop 6. So chances are when we first start it up, which we'll have a look at in a minute, we will get a red light flashing, and the red LED means that it can't find a receiver input for the throttle. So we have to go into configure. Well, the first thing we need to do, I'm jumping ahead of myself, is we need to just load up a generic set of files for this particular truck. Well, we know it's Mercedes Actros, so let's go for File, Open Project. Let's find the Beier files, which are in here. Right, SFR sound, here we go. Right, I've got trucks, Scania, MB Actros V8. Nearest one will be MB Actros V8. And then within that file you'll find a .sfr configuration file. You can either double click that or just highlight it and open it. And what it's done, it has pre-populated some of these fields, look. So Beier already gives you a basic model to be starting with, and that's what we'll be uploading to the truck. It's a little, think of it a little bit like Windows. It comes in its basic state, and then you do all sorts of customizing, change the screen color, whatever, and that's exactly what we're doing here. Now, to go back to what I was going to do when I jumped ahead, is I'm going to go to configuration, and within here there's a channel called S-Bus S Sunday, and then there's a very important box top left there which is activate S-Bus at X26, which is prop 6 on the board. I'll show you that. That has to be activated so that the software knows you're running S-Bus, and then this will get transferred to the SFR-1 to tell the SFR-1 that we're running S-Bus. Okay, so before I go and transfer that, I'm just going to save this now, and we're going to save it in there. Now, this is quite normal. There are not all sound files in the project folder. This is because it's at the moment all it's trying to do is save that one file. But as you saw, there was many wave files and things and bits and pieces. All this message is saying to you, do you want all of the files that are within this copied to the same folder? And the answer must be yes. There you go. So if I now go back to the open page, you'll see there, look, it's gone into my documents, WM Merc Actros. Configuration, activate S-Bus, and all importantly, I'm going to click on the Save Project icon at the top. I'm not going to do any more with that at the moment, because what I'm interested in doing is running setup on the SFR-1, and I can't run setup until it's told that it's running S-Bus. So let's go back to the truck now. Okay, I've got my USB cable plugged into the port. At the moment the switch is turned off, the battery is connected. I've temporarily put in a speaker control. In this build the volume will be controlled by the transmitter, so that won't be necessary, that will be coming out. The reason I put that in there is that if you unplug that, so those two pins are open circuit, the Beier amplifier will output 100% volume to the speaker. So it's worth investing £4.95 in one of these just so that you don't get deafened, because whilst you're trying to run the setup, you don't really want the volume to be on absolute maximum, deafening you. Hopefully see there that I've just got one connection to the receiver, which goes into number 6 on here. It's loose at the moment because when I give it back to the customer I've got to swap transmitters binding with this receiver, so, and I need to be able to access the bind plug on the side, so when we've done that I'll mount it properly. Everything else is ready, speakers connected, all of my wiring's ready, and I've actually got it on axle stands so that we can just check that the motor's working, wheels are turning, and so on and so forth. So let's switch on and just find the switch. Where is it? There we go. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going back to the computer in the background, and I'm going to click on Transfer Project Data. What's happening is it's just found the sound module and it's starting to transfer all of those files that you saw to the unit, and they're all coming down the USB cable. Typically it takes initially about 3 minutes to do this. Once you've done it, if you want to just change an odd file or something, it takes seconds to update it, but the initial one typically takes about 3 minutes to do. Just before we do the assignments in the software, it's important that we know which channels on the transmitter correspond to the prop numbers on the SFR-1. Don't confuse channels with prop numbers, they're not the same thing, i.e. prop 1 is not channel 1, prop 2 is not channel 2. Props 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5 are the proportional channels available within the Beier software, which is obviously different to channels 1 to 12 that you have available on your transmitter. So I'm just going to go to the display page where we can see which control operates which channel. So it's going to be the throttle for us, isn't it? Look, well, that's showing us as channel 3, and this one here is showing us as channel 4. This one here is showing us as channel 2, and the steering is showing us as channel 1. And I've just made a note of those on this diagram. Back at the software now, we need to assign the channels that we've just looked at on the transmitter to proportional channels within the software. In essence, what that's doing is it's connecting the transmitter on the one side to the SFR1 on the other side. Now prop 1 must be assigned to the throttle. Well, we know the throttle was channel 3. So if we click the down list, channel 3. Prop 2 must be the steering. There's the only two that must be, the rest you can just do what you like with them. So the steering one was channel 1. Now we're just left with two more. So I'll make those channel 2 and channel 4 for the moment. So we've assigned our 4 sticks, channels 1, 2, 3 and 4, to props 1, 2, 3 and 4. And notice they don't necessarily have the same number on each side. Prop 1, which is the SFR throttle channel input, is from channel 3, which is the transmitter throttle output channel. So it's matching one channel to another. Prop 2, which is the steering channel for the SFR1, is matched to channel 1, and channel 1 is the right hand stick left to right. The other two channels, channels 2 and channels 4, are the other two sticks which can be used for lighting and horn and reverse and all that kind of stuff. But the main thing is we just need to get those in first off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to transfer that to the truck. So I need to just, in the background, just switch the truck on. I've just switched it on. So if I click on transfer data, it won't be able to find anything. So it's down here now, look, searching sound module, it's found it at module 4, updating configuration, all project data transferred. So that's actually gone across, and I've clicked on the save button at the top. I'm now going to run setup on the SFR1, and you can do that using the setup button here. I've got the transmitter switched on, got it switched on at the moment. You need to do this so that you can make sure the SFR1 responds properly to the full movement of the throttle channel. First thing you do, just use a little screwdriver on top of that little button there, and all we do is press the button until the green LED flashes. When it starts flashing, move the throttle all the way to the end for a couple of seconds, let go, wait until the blue LED flashes, and then within 10 seconds move it to the back position and let go. And there you go. That's it. And we should have throttle. You can hear it even if you can't see it. So that's set up running. If ever you get any problems where it doesn't respond properly to the throttle, just rerun setup again. You'll find it on page 16 of the manual. It's quite a simple process. The other thing that should work now without any further configuration is your steering. I'm limited to how much I can move the steering because it's I've got all this stuff at the front, but we'll soon check and see it. As you can see, the steering is working. So we've got throttle working and we've got steering working. The other two channels we'll have to configure yet. Alright, so we've managed to get the steering working and the throttle working, but no sound yet. Like everything else within the Beier, it's not plug and play. You configure things to do exactly what you want. So let's just get the sound to work. If we go to configuration and come to engine sound, there is a tick box here, look. Turn on engine sound automatically by motion and turn it off again when stationary. 10 seconds isn't a long time, so we'll leave it to 1 minute for what it's worth, and turn on engine sound automatically by motion. I'm now going to transfer just that little bit to the SFR-1. And you see at the bottom it's uploading all project data transferred. So you can see how quick that was. Rather than pan the camera back to you, back to the SFR, sorry, I will just run it in the background so you can hear that it works. So just by putting that one little tick box in and sending it across to the unit, we now have sound. Let's just go back to the opening tab. Well, when you open the software, you'll come up with that. What you need to go to is configuration and then general. Now, when we come down here, overall volume 100, so we want that on 100 to start with. I'm not going to go through all these boxes with you. You can look them up in the manual. Down here, we're not running a LiPo. I'm running an LAMH at 7.2 volts, and it automatically assigns under voltage thresholds in here. And you probably just heard the sound turn off in the background. That was the 60 seconds. Add under voltage, turn sounds off. Add under voltage, turn outputs off. Nice little fail safes in the Beier. When you reach those thresholds, and you can set them lower if you want, it'll just stop working. It will also play a sound which you'll hear telling you to charge your battery. So I'm not going to do any more in there at the moment. Go to speed controller. Now this is one that I have ticked, and it's one of the beauties of the Beier system is the speed controller. You can tick the box that says cruise control active only when driving forwards. I don't do that. That means that you can set it up to move very, very slowly backwards, and rather than focus on the throttle, you can just focus on the steering. You do want to click that one, which is speed controller with braking function. That's important. And down here you've got load regulation, inertia regulation, steering angle limits, hand brakes, and throttle profiling over here. All of this is just going to stay at standard for the moment. Engine sounds, we've just been in that tab. The only one we've turned on at the moment is that tick. Don't want to do any more in there at the moment. Random sounds, that just makes a compressor sound after anything up to 40 seconds of running. We're going to leave the S-Bus one for the moment. Prop channels. You may recall I said that there were up to 16 channels with S-Bus, and there they are. It's not showing prop 1 because prop 1 is reserved purely for throttle. Prop 2 is reserved for steering. But you've got prop 3, prop 4, prop 5, and we've got 12 channels. So we can assign all of these to various functions. That's a huge amount of stuff you can do there. So that you don't get confused, the best thing to do, because it's already assigned some into these different positions here, is click on delete assignments and just remove them so that you've got a clear sheet, so to speak. You're not removing any of the sounds or anything like that from the unit. All you're doing is just clearing. It's a bit like deleting a shortcut on a desktop. The sound is still there, but you've got rid of the shortcut to it. So all those are nice and free now, which is exactly how we want them. You will find up here one called outputs. This is where we will assign all the outputs for the lighting, and there you've got output options as well, and also where we can configure the lights to come on and off in any particular order that you want. A couple of things that we do need to activate on here will be these two, which is servos 1 and 2. Now we need to activate those because we're using one for the fifth wheel, and we're using the other one to change the gears. Unless we activate these two, then neither the gears nor the fifth wheel will work properly. But before we do those, I'm going to set up some channels for them because you can only do it so far, and then down here it'll ask you, well, which channel do you want it to work on? Well, at the moment we don't know, so we'll come back to that. Function sequences, where you can set up all sorts. I've got another video on showing function sequences, a simple sequence for flashing headlights, that kind of thing. So that's it, that'll get you going really. You've got the general tab here, you've got a speed controller tab. You come along the S-bus, we've got to populate the balance of these yet. Whoops, a daisy. Slipped with that one, just put it back to 0. And then your prop channels is where we will assign things like horns and hazards and various actions that you want to happen, reverse for example, and also things like changing gear. This piece of paper here shows my assignments. You will recall I said that the channels on the transmitter are not the same as the proportional channels on the Beier software. What we need to do is link these two up together. In essence, we're taking a particular channel from here and we're telling the Beier unit where we want it to go on the SFR-1. You will know that we've already done the first 4, channels 1 to 4, but what about the rest of them? Because I mean, I've got gears to do, volume control, fifth wheel control, cruise control. This is a copy of a previous model that I did, but I'm just going to work through these now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to channels on here. Now, channel 5 gears I like to use on switch E, which is this one over the back here. It's currently on F, which is wrong, so we're going to change that to E. There you go. You don't need to save on this particular transmitter, just backing out of whatever you've set it to will automatically save it. So we've now assigned channel 5 to gears and switch E. We haven't done anything on S-bus yet, so we'll ignore that bit. We've done that bit and that bit. I now want the volume to work on VRA. That's VRA, the first variable resistor. As it so happens, channel 6 just by fluke is already on VRA. Don't know whether you can see that. You could change it to whatever you like, but that's on VRA. So channel 6 is on VRA, which is the volume. That one's done. Come down to channel 7. The fifth wheel I like to use on switch B, which is this one here. It's at the moment saying VRC, which is completely wrong. So we come back through these until we find switch B. Okay, so we've got channel 7 is going to be used for the fifth wheel on switch B. Channel 8 I'm going to use for cruise control, which is going to be on switch D, this one here. So I come down here, that's wrong. Switch B, switch C, switch D. That's what I want, switch D, channel 8 cruise control. At the moment I'm not going to assign anything to 9 or 10, and if you're using one of these transmitters it's best to set it to null, because you don't want 2 switches doing the same thing. It can get a bit confusing. That's if you're not confused enough already, of course. Where's null gone? I'm going round in circles here. There we go. Channels 1 to 4 are already previously assigned, so we've got switch E, VRA, switch B, switch D. They're all on at the moment. Now, if I go back one, the fifth wheel one on B, let me find endpoints on B, which is channel 7 there. I'm going to initially just run these endpoints right down low, because I want to sorry, I'm trying to think and do it at the same time. What are we on? Channel 7, which is switch B. If I move it to the other side now, I can move that one back down to 20. I've got that little micro servo on there that's controlling the fifth wheel, and I've no idea where I want the end points to be, and I don't want to overload it. So I'll just set it back down to 2020 on that one. The volume will be fine, the fifth wheel, the cruise control will be fine, and the gears on channel E. Well, that is channel 5, sorry, not switch A, channel 5. So likewise for the gears, because I don't want to strain the servo or anything, just for the moment, I'm going to put this back down to 50. Once you know it's working, you can slowly increment these until it actually controls your gears properly how you want. So to summarise there then, I've set up switches to channels 5, 6, 7 and 8, which are going to be used for gears, volume, fifth wheel and cruise, and I've reduced the trim settings on the gear servo and on the fifth wheel servo, not necessarily on the other two items. So now that we've done those, we can go back to the software and we can assign these channels to an S-Bus channel. Back at the software now, we go to the S-Bus channel. We've already done the first 4. Now the balance of the 12 that we've got, you can set up these items that we've just looked at to any one of those channels on there. They're not critical by any means. It's just using an available prop for a particular channel. The only ones that are critical on there, quite frankly, are 1 and 2, which is the throttle and the steering. Other than that, in fact, even the steering could be moved somewhere else. It's the throttle is the important one on prop 1. So we just pick the next one in the list for what it's worth. So channel 5 gears I want, so I'm going to put that into there, and it's channel 5. Okay. Then I've got a 6 for volume, which could go into number 6. It doesn't have to go into number 6. It could go into 8, 9, 10 if you wanted. Channel 7 is the fifth wheel, which can go into there. And channel 8 is the cruise control there. But just to show that they don't have to go in any particular order, I'm going to pick number 10 and put channel 8 in there. It really doesn't matter. You've got the 12 channels to play with. So effectively, with what I've assigned at the moment, you have still 1, 2, 3, 4 channels free to play with, and we've assigned 1, 2, 3 switches and a rotary volume control. So what we'll do now is we'll send that to the SFR-1 and see what happens. I just need to turn it on first in the background. Might help. Right, that's on. If it's not switched on, you'll just get a message saying can't find it. Updating configuration. So it's very, very quick. Job done. Just before we go back to the truck, it occurred to me that we could really do with moving the engine sound on off to a switch rather than that tick box. So I've taken that tick box tick out. That was under engine sound. So now if you to start the SFR-1 up, you won't get any engine sound at all because it's been turned off. What I want to do is assign a switch on my transmitter to starting the engine. I'm just going to pick prop 8 with the next available channel that I may have, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so the next available channel will be channel 9. So we're going to call that channel 9. Okay, back to the radio now. Let's assign a switch. We just want an on-off switch for the, let's take switch F at the back. We're going to use switch F to turn our engine on and off. So I need to go into setup. I need to come down to my auxiliary channels. If you remember, it was channel 9 we'd assigned in S-Bus, which has currently not got any switch to it, and that's F. So I want to change that to switch F, which it's on now. Okay, so switch F is now assigned to channel 9. So if we go to the servo one to just verify that, you can see channel 9 is going backwards and forwards on there. Back at the software then, we've assigned switch F to channel 9, switch F of channel 9 to that S-Bus there. That's done. So what we need to do now is go into the proportional channels, and it was number 8, remember? Number 8 we put it into, so we go to prop 8. At the moment there's nothing assigned in here. Going for this middle one, short in position, engine sound on off, OK. Transfer project data, and it's saying sound module wasn't found. Is it connected? Because it's not turned on. Now that I've turned it on, I have to click it again and it's sent. We've assigned the sound to prop 6. That's channel 6 on the transmitter. We set VRA to that, a variable resistor, and it's gone to prop 6. So what we need to do now is come down to here, volume, direct volume control, prop 6. And then transfer. Just need to turn the machine on. What that's doing, quite simply, is telling the SFR-1 that any signals coming on prop 6 are controlling the volume. And that's been transferred. I'm just going to click on the save button. Okay, we're now going to see if the sound is working via the rotary control there. And you may recall we assigned the sound on off to switch F. First off then, let's try switching the sound on. There we go. There's the volume control. And we can turn the sound off with that as well. So the engine start-stop is working and the volume control is working. I now want to turn attention to the two servos. I'll just pop this on the screen, hopefully you can see it. We've connected the gear servo and the fifth wheel servo to connections 1 and 2 on the board. Excuse me, but they need to be set up or configured within this software for them to work. So if you come along to configuration and then go to servo outputs and servos 1 and 2, and we do one at a time. Activate servo 1 outputs. Unless you put a tick in there, it's not going to work anyway. And then what you want down here now is whichever prop number is assigned to, in this case, just looking at my piece of paper, number 1 is the gear servo, which is S-Bus number 5, prop 5. So that needs to be 5. And then the other servo, this one here, is the one for the fifth wheel. And the fifth wheel one, I think, is on S-Bus 7. So to just check those, that's 5 and 7. Yeah, because the only one we messed around with was number 8. So just to go back to that again, servo outputs, we've activated both the servos and we've told the software in the case of the gears it needs to be proportional channel 5, and in the case of the fifth wheel it needs to be proportional channel 7. Now we need to transfer those over to the software. Having set the servos up in the software, they should now work from that one for gears and that one for the fifth wheel. The fifth wheel is disconnected at the moment until I know the extent of where it's going to move, and then I'll reconnect it. I've left the engine sound off so you can actually hear the servos. Let's start with this one. I don't know whether you can hear that, but that little micro servo is actually working. I set the trims quite low, so it's only moving backwards and forward a little bit, but it is working properly. Likewise for the gears, which you should hear. Excellent, so both of those are working. Just going to show you the cruise control working. Well, first of all, to start the engine. I move the throttle now. Hopefully you can see the drive shaft spinning. Maybe the wheel in the corner there. So that's on cruise control. If I move this switch down now, we're now on just normal manual control. So that works quite nicely. So back at the software, we've got sound working and we've got the motor working. What about lighting? So let's go into configuration, come down here to outputs, and here we have outputs 1 to 8 and 9 to 16. These correspond to 1 to 8, 9 to 16. 1 to 8, 9 to 16. So now it's a case of transferring what I've connected to these particular outputs onto this screen. I'm going to start with output 1, which is a near side indicator. So we look down here for indicator left. In the next one is offside indicator, indicator right. Output 3 is combined rear light or stop and tail, combined rear light. Output 4 is reverse. Reversing light. I couldn't see that for a minute. Output 5 and 6 are also near side indicator, indicator left and indicator right. Output 7 is the roof spots, so I'm going to call these, we'll call them the front fog lights, it's just a name. Output 8 is not used. Output 9 is side repeaters, running lights. I'll put side repeaters on here, that's not correct really, it's running lights. Where's running light? Where's my running light gone? Daytime running light, right at the top of the list. Number 10 is offside indicator, right hand indicator. Number 11 is near side indicator. Number 12 is reverse. Number 13, combined rear light again. Number 14 is low beam headlights. Number 15 is high beam headlights, and number 16 is also front spots. So we've added all of those in now to there. We'll have a look at output options. You can have a look through all of this yourself. I'm not going to dwell on that, we'd be here for ages. This is the one I'm interested in showing you. This is the steps that the proportional stick will cycle through with the lights. Each one of these lines here is a position on the stick. Step 0 is the default position, so that's before we even touch a stick to control the lights. And every time there's a dot in here, it means that that will be on, that will be actioned. So if you look, we've got reversing lights possible, brake lights possible, indicators possible. So all of those are possible regardless of whichever step of the lighting sequence we're in, which is quite normal. Now, if you've got daytime running lights, and we've got a couple on the side, put a dot in there. That means when you first start the Beier unit up, the daytime running lights would come on. We're not using a parking light in this particular one. The next thing we would probably want to put on would be the low beam headlight in the next step. Then in the third step, you'd want to put on the high beam headlight. Then in the fourth step, front fog lights. This is all configurable to do it however you want, but that's the way I would do it for the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save that. We're going to transfer it to the truck and let's see if the lights work. I've just sent the configuration to the SFR-1 for the lights, and I'm just using the left stick to the right to switch them on. I'll just turn that off for a second. I think you can just about see that the running light is on by default. Dip beam, spots, it's all there. Turn it all off again. That all works fine. What I'm going to do now is set up dual rates on this transmitter, which will allow us to do two different things with a stick in one position, dependent on where the switch is. I'm going to use I'm going to use switch A for my dual rates. So what I'm effectively saying is that when the switch is in the up position, that will do one thing. When it's in the down position, that will do another thing. So what we can do is we can say lights on, lights off, and that means now we've sort of confined lights to just one position rather than using the whole stick. And the way to do that is we need to just set up dual rates. If you go into dual rates on here, it's already showing channel 2. Switch A, which is this one here. Yep. What we need to do is just change that to the up position. You notice in the up position it says dual rates 100% and the graph is more or less 45. If I move it to down, it's already on 50%, which is exactly what I want it to be. So I want it to be in the up position 100, in the down position 50. So that's quite correct. Number 4, in the down position is also still on 50 and the up position is on 100, and also switch A. So they are both correct. Let's just see what that looks like in the servo screen. So the switch is up, so we're getting 100 there and we're getting 100 there. If I move that one there now, you'll notice I only get 50 at maximum, and this one here I only get 50 at maximum. So the dual rates are working correctly. What we can do now in the case of the lights is go back to the software and assign lights on and lights off to that same position, and I'll show you how to do that now. Back in the software now. If you recall, we've just set up dual rates for channels 2 and 4, which aren't props 2 and 4, they're channels 2 and 4. So if we look in here, channel 2 is prop 3 and channel 4 is, so it's props 3 and 4 we're interested in. Well, there you go, prop 4, there's our light switch plus. And we put the light switch minus on the opposite side. So I'm going to get rid of the light switch minus now, not used. And I'm going to put the light switch minus in there. Do you remember if we had dual rates on it only gave you 50%? Well, this line here corresponds to 50%, this line corresponds to 100%. There's a graphical representation of your stick, be it horizontal or vertical. So in other words, if we move to the first one, it'll action that. If we move to the second one, it'll action that. Well, because we've set up dual rates so that 50% is a full stick, they'll both work in the full stick position. I know that sounds a little bit difficult to understand, or I'll just send that over to the truck and then we'll go and have a look and see what it's done. Back at the truck now, we are actually running. There you go. Now if you remember, what we've done now is we've assigned the lights both to the one side, not to the other side. So if I do that, nothing's happening. That's because we got the dual rate switch in the turn the lights off position. Turn the lights on, 1, 2, 3. Move the switch down, turn the lights off, 1, 2, 3. So we've used one stick position in combination with a switch to either turn the lights on or turn the lights off.